Did not play very well Saturday, making a lot of changes moving forward to play better in all three phases, and just obviously doing some self-evaluations and making sure that we've got people in good situations and the right people in those situations that can win those situations. So we'll make those changes. Looking forward to getting back on the field this week, going through a good work week. Players were great. Attitudes have been great. We'll meet them today again for some academics and things like that. And then we'll start getting ready for Jacksonville State, obviously a tremendous opponent, and a chance to go to their place. And obviously a phenomenal venue, and it'll be a really good atmosphere down there. And we have a lot of Alabama guys on this team, on this football team, so they're looking forward to getting back home and playing in front of some of their home crowd. Looking forward to the challenge.
What's the greatest problem you noticed on film, or was there one in particular?
With Jacksonville State,
no,
or
with
us?
With this one this past week.
Well, if you look at if you look offensively, so we'll start offensively on that side of the ball. Basically, we've put our offensive line and our quarterback in a tremendous problem, being only able to do one thing, and that's throw the ball. And when you pull up the film, we had a heart-to-heart meeting with the offense as a team, not individual unit meetings, and we showed about 32 clips of just some things that we needed to get squared away. And it started, we went all the way from running backs not reading runs when we do have them blocked up well. We're running into defenders and not reading the blocks, and it's one of those things that's frustrating because you ask them, hey, what's your key, where's your aiming point, and they know it, but it's not showing up. And then to us not being able to block those runs unless, there's literally some clips where they have the majority of their defense on one side of the ball, and that's where we had good runs. And it was a very eye-opening meeting for those guys, both at the running back spot and the O-line spot. And then we showed wide receivers, on some pass routes, trying to get open and create some space, and there's no space created. And and you got a quarterback sitting back there trying to run around, trying to figure out who in the world's open, and nobody's open. And we showed those clips. And obviously, anybody who knows me, the first thing that I did Sunday, and the offensive staff knew it, the defensive staff knew it, everybody who's involved with special teams, there's certain things that we came in Sunday morning, and I said, look here, as a staff, as coaches, we have to get this corrected. It started with me. And then once we started watching the film, we started putting together our teach tapes and started going back there saying, look here, boys, there's only so many things you can call. And then it boils down to you've got to be able to make that play because you're in a situation to make that play. And we didn't do that offensively. Defensively, right now, it's like I told the defensive staff, right now we're the tallest midget. Defensively, we're the tallest midget. When you look at us defensively compared to offense, we're playing so well defensively because it's the lesser of the two evils, because we got cut up in the run game for almost 300 yards on one play. They ran stretch. They ran stretch to the right, and they ran stretch to the left. We got pretty cut up with it. And then at times when they were throwing the ball, it was kind of like shooting fish in a barrel. And so they made a cut up of things and going, why are you not here? Why are you not in this place? Or you're in this place, you have to make this tackle. There is you and a 2-foot gap of space, and somehow or another that guy makes you miss and goes on for a big run. So we did that, as well as looked at ourselves as coaches and said, look here, we don't do that very well anymore. Take that out. For whatever reason, I really like that play, I really like that blitz, but we don't do it well, take it out. And then the same thing special teams wise, because the fact of the matter is the game boiled down to you take 7 points off the board when you negate a muff punt, because we were lined up in the backfield on punt, had too many in the backfield on punt. That cannot happen. Unacceptable, because we had a chance to go down there and score. That's 7 points right there. You take one of their 7 points off the board with an unsportsmanlike penalty on 3rd and 10. Okay, I got an unsportsmanlike penalty. Cannot happen. Unacceptable for a coach to do that. Obviously, it was on the 2-yard line, so it moved them up 1 yard, and it took them from 2nd down to 1st down. Cannot happen. They wind up scoring there. Okay, then we get the ball on the goal line off of a turnover, and we get 3 points out of it. We get stuffed on the 1-yard line. It's one of those things where we show it and go, man, we've got to make plays. You know, the run that we tried to run in there, you got to leave your feet. You got to find a way to score. The toss that we threw out there, we had 2 guys not block their guys. Just straight up did not block their guys. So we've got to get better, and we've got to improve in those situations. And then we had another turnover at the 50-yard line, and we went 30 yards backwards. We had a sack and an errant snap, and we went 30 yards backwards. Nobody in this country is good enough to do those things and still win a ball game. And so there was long meetings yesterday at looking at the reality of, man, are we playing hard? Yeah, man, we're playing hard. We're playing hard. But we're doing too many foolish things to win tight ball games like that against tight opponents and opponents that we have a chance to win in. And we've got to get that cleaned up. I've got to get that cleaned up, because ultimately that's my job, and that's what we've done. Like I said, we've made some changes moving forward to a lot of different phases of the game to make sure that these last 3 weeks, and this one in particular, because it's the only one that we're guaranteed right now, is a successful opportunity for us.
What are some of those changes moving forward?
Some of it may be personnel. Some of it may be just in-house things and changing some things around, and you know, whether it's myself maybe being more involved in certain aspects and things like that. But you know, just changes that needed to be made. Practice changes, you know, what we're going to do, and doing a little bit more. Not as much future work as much as, hey, ones on twos and ones on twos the other way, you know, and making sure that you know that we're going to have intense practices moving forward, not from a banging and clanging standpoint, but an intense coaching, learning, educating practice, so that we can make sure that some of these things don't continue happening.
The last few weeks, you guys have let defensively, you've let one running back just run all day, and with this week you've got Rock Thomas, arguably probably the best back in the OVC. What are you guys going to have to do to stop him?
Get as many helmets to the ball as we can. I mean, that's the fact of the matter, is you got to get as many. It's no different than last week. You know, last week, I mean, they do some good things. They've got a slew of backs. You know, Eastern Kentucky has a slew of backs that they can throw at you, and you know, and when that happens, you have to devote all of these hats to the box. Well, it makes you susceptible to some things in you know, pass coverage. But you know, Boone does a phenomenal job over there trying to figure out when to do it and when not to, when to blitz, when not to, when to play coverage, when not to, and he'll continue doing that. But the only way that you can attempt to contain, you're not going to stop Rock Thomas, you're not going to stop that offensive line. The only way that you can attempt to contain him is to put as many hats on the ball or around the ball as you can and try to bottle him up as best you can.
JSU leading the OVC in fewest yards allowed right now. Like, what can your running game do to get started? I mean, haven't really gotten off to a great start at all, and it's not really going to get any better as far as what this defense goes. What can you do to make adjustments?
Our job. I mean, I hate to be like that, but that's what we have to do, is our job. If our job is to read this guy and he does this and we go here, we have to do that. If our job is to coach that, we have to do that. If our job is to block a certain front a certain way, we have to do that. If our job is to coach that, we have to do that. obviously that's ultimately my job, is to make sure that all of that's getting done. And if it's not getting done, then like I said, we have to make personnel changes. We have to put somebody in there that can do it. But that's the only way that you can improve, is you've got to go out there and you've got to be ultimately excited to learn it, coach it, get it coached to you, execute it, and learn a better way of executing it when you're not executing it. That's what you have to do, and you have to be excited about that process, okay? And that's the thing. It's what's so funny about sports is for some reason sports is the one thing in society as a whole that everybody wants quick fixes. Everybody wants things done right away. Everybody wants immediate results and immediate gratification, and it ain't gonna happen. It's not. This is no different than marriage. This is no different than building a house. There's a foundation that has to be. There's steps that have to be taken. There's things that have to be done, and sometimes it takes some time. It takes some work, and it takes some grit and all of those things. And you know, and we've got to be gritty enough and competitive enough, and our guys, that is one thing they are. That team down there, man, I love those kids because they are gritty enough to sit there, and those coaches the same way, staff and myself, we're all gritty enough individuals to sit there and look at things and go, got to change this, we're evaluating this, we like this, I've got to do this better, and go the next week and start trying to improve those things. And if we'll continue to do that, we'll be really, really good. Really, really good.
Jacksonville State probably has the front runner, at least in my opinion, for Player of the Year, Darius Jackson, 12 hurries, 15.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. He's been tremendous.
Is that number 40?
Number 40. Talk about him and the challenge he presents.
He can fold you up, put you in his pocket anytime he wants to. He's good. They're gonna line him about 5 yards away from your tackle, and they give him a point. It's like they're playing with a cone on the field, and they say, hey, you get to that cone as fast as you can. And if anybody gets in your way, you fold them up, put them in your pocket. And that's how he plays ball. There's a lot of things that you think that you can do. Everybody tries to run like stretch power Q at him. They try to run inside runs because he's out there, so it don't matter. It don't matter. They'll try to pin and pull him. I've seen them literally I've seen opponents take other offensive linemen just to give him a bigger body and try to pin him, fold him up, put him in his pocket. And there is no pinning and there is no pulling. And when you don't have a pin, you don't have a pull. And when you don't have a pin and you don't have a pull, you don't have a play. And that's what he's good at. He's one of the best I've seen in a long, long time.
When you talk about a guy like Darius Jackson, he's got a lot of other great defenders. I mean, I'm seeing names that have been here a little while. McCandless, Sear Neal's good, Reggie Hull's good. Their whole defense is good. How do you game plan? Where do you find the seams and the cracks in a defense?
Very, very, very carefully. There ain't a whole lot. Again, you have to figure out ways. What it boils down to from a game planning standpoint is we have good players too. I have good players too, and I got players that I really like and I really trust, and guys that can make plays. And those guys, I've got to put them in a situation to succeed. I got to, whether that's doing this, that, or the other, whether it's a motion or lining them up here or doing some kind of crazy formation or whatever the case may be. What you can't allow that to have happen is you come back on a Sunday and go, man, that dude literally, he had no targets. We didn't even attempt to get him the ball. He had no touches and things like that. If you can try to get those guys touches and you give them legitimate shots, to be successful and touch the ball, then you've done your job. And then those guys, those kids, they come back on a Sunday and go, man, Coach, I should have made that play, or I did make that play, and those type things. So we're going to do that. We're going to try to make our strengths, try to hide our weaknesses as much as we can. With guys like that and all of their personnel. But like I said, I got personnel too, and we're going to try to make the good personnel that we have, we're going to try to make them as successful as possible.
Just a little bit also about the quarterbacks. They have, I think, 550 rushing yards, and that's when you pull the sacks off of it as well. What sort of challenge does that present to you?
Yeah. Well, it always presents different challenges when the quarterback can run the football because, like I've always said, you get to play with 11. 11 people then as an offense. And they've kind of, they've got 2 quarterbacks that roll in there. Obviously, one throws it a little bit better, and the other one runs it a little bit better. But they can both do both, and that's kind of the problem. Is even the guy who can throw it, he can still run it a little bit. It ain't like he's just sitting duck back there. And the guy who can run it, he can still throw it a little bit, to where if you devote all your people to either the pass or the run, they're good enough, and they're going to have things built into their system to where that guy can do the other. And that's where the problem presents itself is okay, what problem are we going to try to contain? This guy's the running quarterback. We're going to try to contain the run and just hope that, they don't call it or he screws up the pass, because he's not as good as the other guy at throwing the ball, and vice versa. And you just try to make the one thing that that they're trying to do out of that personnel, you try to eliminate that and hope that you can eliminate a big play with the other.